Hello, my gently used humans. Welcome back to a space where we embrace the beautiful messiness of life with open arms. Today, we're diving into a conversation that's going to ignite a spark in your soul you didn't even know you needed. I'm beyond excited to introduce you to the phenomenal Josselyne Herman-Saccio, someone who's cracked the code on working just 12 hours a week while making an even bigger impact than ever before. Seriously, who wouldn't want that? What I adore about Josselyne is her ability to slice through the chaos and zero in on what truly matters. She's not here to sprinkle fairy dust and wishful thinking. She is here to guide us from being perpetual reactors to life into becoming the architects of our own destinies. Feeling trapped in the relentless cycle of busyness and yearning for a better way? This chat is your ticket to more freedom. We'll show you how to stop being your own roadblock, master the art of letting go, and help you use your voice to create real change in your life. Because sometimes the biggest thing standing in our way is, well, us. So buckle up for a journey of challenges, inspiration, and practical strategies that actually deliver. Let's jump in with this extraordinary human being on the Gently Used Human. Let's do this. Josselyne, welcome to the Gently Used Human. You, I would say, definitely fall into the category of iconic in terms of the amount...
I thought you were going to say being gently used. I'm definitely more than gently used.
You definitely fall into the category of gently used iconic is what is the real sentence. That's You have done it all, and it's quite impressive, and I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Before I jump into my original question, let's go back to the excitement you have. Well, maybe it's not excitement, the enthusiasm you have around being identified as gently used. I'm curious about that for you.
Well, I'm old, so to me, I'm like, gently used is an up stat, Especially, I just started with a new trainer, and he's like, give me things to do, and I'm like, my knee's not going to be able to do that. My hip's not going to be able to do that. So, gently used is a theme this week.
How's that sitting with you?
It's actually great because, well, first of all, he pretended to be very surprised at how old I was, so that was always very good, to smart.
Less tips galore.
Yes, exactly. And then it's good to be pushed. It's interesting because I'm a coach, right?
Yeah.
And I always, elicit more performance from people than they would elicit from themselves. But somehow it didn't connect for me that would happen for me too. So I am doing more than I would think I could do because he's there as, saying, okay, now do this. And I'm like, what are you, nuts? I'm not doing that. And then I do it. And it's like, oh, I can do it. So I think it's a testament to coaching, in this case, training, but same thing, seeing something you don't see so that you can develop yourself to how or who you want to be.
It's funny because from a therapeutic lens, we might go, really meet someone where they are, be with them there. And on another side, and this is what I love about coaching too, it's like, push me to my edge and a little bit past it. And there's something so gratifying and satisfying about that. What is that for us? What do you think?
I think that if you're going to be where you are and stay where you are, you don't need a coach. There's no use for a coach if you don't, have an intention or a commitment to expand and develop yourself. You can predictably, you're going to increase your results incrementally without a coach, you know what I mean? But if you want to cause breakthrough performance or anybody who's committed to high performance in any area has a coach. So it's not that you're not competent. Look at Olympic athletes. Where would they be without their coach, right? But they're more competent at athletics than any of us. So it's the high performers that benefit most from coaching because you're taking them from a high level to a higher level versus underneath the basement up to the first floor. So, my methodology, what I try and do is work with really successful people who are out to cause the next breakthrough, not people who are sort of struggling, suffering. Although, sometimes I do work with those people and it's not a problem. You have to get to zero to be able to create. But I'm more useful in terms of results for people if they're already highly functioning and now they need scaffolding, somebody to see what they can't see and say what they don't want to hear so that that's like my trainer, say what I don't want to hear so I can be who I want to be. I'm seeing him later today, so I'll tell him I shared about him on this podcast.
There's something interesting in that word expansion, and it's like many of us want it, but there's also another part that I think is like, are we chasing expansion? Is there a moment in time when we get to rest and it's not? I don't know. I feel a lot of guilt. I will say I feel guilt when I'm not in an expansion phase of my life. And I spent some time in that sort of non-expansion stage last year thinking this is actually nice too.
Yeah, I think, a couple answers to that question. One is it's not so much about expansion, it's about what are you creating?
Yeah.
And you could be creating working half as much. That's a creation. So in a way, that's expanding your leisure time or expanding time to take on a new hobby or something like that. So expansion is a little bit of a trick word because it isn't about growing necessarily, but about creation and formulation and vision and fulfillment. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I have a program called the Mastery Program, and it's designed for entrepreneurs who want to double their business, but master not only performance, but creation and freedom at the same time. So you can double your business by working half as much and keeping the same numbers.
Yes, please.
Exactly. So that's one of the results that people produce is working less and accomplishing the same or more, which is a doubling of your business. You don't usually look at it that way, but as a metric, it depends on what you're measuring. Are you measuring money? Are you measuring clients? Are you measuring free time? Are you measuring followers? Are you measuring impact? I mean, there's whatever you're measuring, you're going to move. Right now, I'm measuring the scale. So I will be moving that number on the scale. That's my new game. I lost 5 pounds this week. I'm like, woo, okay, the game is on.
In terms of halving our effort or time, what does that look like? Is it just finding more efficiency?
It's a combination of things. So I will tell you, I created this program out of what I created for myself. So when I created it for myself, I was like, I got to teach people how to do this. This is insane. Because I work about 12 hours a week. Now, I used to work 60 to more hours a week, And to me, the idea of working 12 hours a week is like, give me a break. It's not possible. And I've exponentially increased my income. So it's possible to do. It's about design. So most people don't design their life, they deal with their life. They deal with what's coming at them, and effective people are effective at dealing with what's coming at you, but that's different than creation. And creation and vision and the world of like word, using your word to design what your life is going to look like a year from now, and then backwards planning it to see what has to happen by 9 months, by 6 months, by 3 months, what has to happen? What are the milestones? And then what are the actions? And most people get snagged on actions. And it's funny because a lot of people aren't even clear what an action is. They'll have something down like, well, I have to take an action like finish my website. That's not an action. That's a result of about 30 actions. So if you don't break it down into actionable steps, people get stuck and they wonder why they're procrastinating or behind on their goals. It's because you haven't broken it down into reality, like things that you're going to do at this time on this day or have somebody else do. So in answering your original question about, is it about being more efficient? It is about being more efficient, but it's also about delegating. And most entrepreneurs are horrible at that because how they started their business is all they did everything, and it's just easier, and to train somebody is going to take longer, and it's a pain in the butt, and blah, blah, and all the justifications. But I always say to them, if you want to expand, you've got to release. You have to release the grip because you become the bottleneck in your business for the most part, and the bottleneck in your life. I mean, it doesn't even have to be business. I mean, you could just look at your home life. It's like if you're doing everything, see, you can have it all, but you can't do it all, and people confuse those two things. So offloading things like the laundry or things that don't give you joy, and having other people, whether you hire them or people in your family, create a team, is a big, big time saver or freer upper. And then you can start to create what you really want in your life and what you really want to be engaged with and acting
I feel so motivated just by having this conversation with you. I'm like, holy shit. If you're listening at home and you're already like, I can do this now, then this is really the conversation to keep tuning into, because I feel like I already feel more empowered. And
That's
just
great.
you.
That's my intention.
Thank you. I have a curiosity about, like, when we're setting up the breakdown of like really designing our life, which I love that idea. I really do. It just feels so much more empowering, like, and there's more agency in that than just like
Totally.
dealing with life, which is how so many of us feel.
Well, especially busy, successful people, you have to be good at reacting because things are coming at you. You got to put out fires. You got to deal with breakdowns in your, company and your community, whatever it is. So reacting is a very overused muscle. And in the work that I do with people, a lot of it, when I say being unmessable with, I don't mean being tough. I mean being able to shift from reaction to creation quicker and quicker and quicker. It's like a muscle. So because the overworked muscle is reacting, whether it's good, bad, or ugly reacting, right? It's still automatic. And by default, there's no design to it. So what I train people to do is notice it, see it, right? Be able to identify when you're in the world of reaction, neutralize it, and then shift over to the world of vision or creation, which is the world of being unmessable with, and having your actions being given by your vision, not being driven by your reasons or your considerations or your reactions.
Again, empowerment, y'all. Like, we can do this. And I so appreciate you giving us already some juicy tools and frameworks to do that with. That's truly everything. I know so many of us, whether we are entrepreneurs or we're anything else in this world, often feel overwhelmed.
Yeah. And overwhelm is a function of a lack of vision. So when your vision isn't present, people get overwhelmed and burnt out. I work a lot in overwhelm and burnout. I have so many free tools on my website that people can go get. I have a burnout workshop. I have a basics of being unmessable with workbook that you can practice. I've got, all sorts of stuff that people can get at giftfromjoss.com, JOSS.com. So you can go and see what you want to do. Money, you got something on time. I got something on whatever you want. But, when people are overwhelmed, it's a function of being stuck in that world of reaction and survival. Because the world of reaction, while it's default and automatic, it's also your brain is in survival mode. So your amygdala is kicking in and you're in fight, flight, freeze mode, which for your nervous system is not good, but people hang there for a really long time. What you need to do is hack that brain pattern and shift your brain waves to the frontal cortex, which is where creative thought happens. So I have ways for people to do that so that they can actually practice that, and quicker they can shift from reaction to creation. So then they can really look at what do they really want to create and what are the actions that need to happen in order to fulfill on that vision or fulfill on those goals within the vision. And it's an amazingly effective technology. I've been doing this for a really long time, like 30 years. I've been training people. And this methodology is the simplest, cleanest, and most accessible that I've ever created.
Wow. That's amazing. And you can feel it as you're listening to Josselyne. It's like you can feel the clarity. And if that clarity resonates with you, then keep building and listening into these techniques, because that's going to give you that felt sense of it in your life. Josselyne, I'm going to ask for a friend.
No problem.
What if vision is something you're really struggling with? If it just is like, I don't know. This friend of mine, me, whenever someone says, "What's your 5-year plan?" I say, "Oh, look at that. I have a meeting to go to." Whenever they say a 10-year plan, I'm like, oh,
most
God.
People can't answer that question. You ask them what their vision is. And first of all, it's interesting. I just did a vision workshop last night for people, like a free vision workshop because people deal with this exact question.
Yeah.
And even really highly successful people, when I ask them what their vision is, mostly what they give me is a goal. Like in 5 years,
Mm.
I want to sell my company and move to Spain or whatever. That's not vision. That's a goal. Goals exist in reality. So now this might get a little heady, but I'll try and keep it not too woo-woo because I'm not very woo-woo. But it's a goal can be accomplished in time with metrics,
Okay.
right? That's a goal. A vision is more spatial,
Mm.
experiential in nature. It's more of a contextual conversation rather than a content conversation. So a goal would be content, a vision would be context. So context is like a lens
Okay.
through which you view your circumstances, yourself, your life, other people. But content is the stuff.
Okay.
It's what job you have, what projects you're working on, what weight you are, what marriage status all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know if this is audio or visual. Is this also visual, this podcast?
For those who watch it, yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll describe what I'm doing, but I'm holding up my pointer finger, right? And inside the context body part, this is a finger.
Mm.
But inside the context number, it's a 1.
Mm.
And inside the context direction, it's up. So the very same content, whatever the thing is, looks different depending on the context. So when I work with people on their vision, it's always a contextual linguistic phenomenon. So vision is more like if you accomplished all those goals.
Mm-hmm.
Like what are some of I'll just do it with you right now instead of
Okay.
talking about it. What are some of your goals in the immediate future?
Oh my God. You do know that this is going to make me go, I gotta go to another podcast.
That's your goal, is to get off this call.
I have always shied away from goals and vision. So I'm here with it. I'm going to push through with you.
Great. I got your
goals.
back. Don't worry. You're
I
not
love
stuck
you.
with anything you create here,
I would say a couple goals I have is to build more community and feel a sense of belonging in that community. That's been a big goal of mine. Or is that
Great.
a vision?
So no, that would be a goal. That's
Okay.
something you could accomplish in reality. So when you
Yep.
say more community, I would just
Yeah.
encourage you to get specific. Like, what does that mean? Be part of 10 different communities, have 400 people in one community. Like, what's the
Mhm.
actual goal? Otherwise, you won't ever know if you hit it. And that's why many
Yeah.
people are very unsatisfied in life, because they don't have specific measurable goals. They have sort of these let's do lunch kind of goals someday.
Mm.
And it leaves them in this state of incompletion all the time. But again, you're not stuck with any of this. There's no right answer. But
I'm
what
okay.
would that look like in terms of numbers or areas?
Yeah, it's like a solid group of friends I consider my family. And it's like maybe 10 people that I see a couple times a week. It could be in small pockets or small groups of those people,
Right.
or all of them. And there's a sort of frequency and ease and familiarity and depth with
Okay, great.
those occurrences.
So now let's say that was happening. You're doing
Yeah.
the get-togethers. You got the people. They feel like family. What would be present in your life?
In terms of feeling, sensation, or like more context?
More like contextually or experientially, not feelings like in your body, but what would
Yeah.
be there, like a presence, like a space?
I would say I don't know if this is quite right, but I would say
Yeah.
there's more laughter in the space.
Great. So there's more laughter. Let's say there's laughter. Then what's available that isn't available without everything you're talking about?
I would say there's this sense, you know me, I'm going to go into feelings and sensations.
That's okay. I got you. I can translate.
Ooh, I'm a therapist through and through. I would say there's this way in which life feels more tingly and zestful, and there's really this sense of like timelessness.
Great. It's good that
Or
you
flow.
said that, because flow. So flow
Flow.
could be your vision, right?
Yeah.
So flow is a vision space.
Mm.
And you don't have to wait till you have this community of 10 people to have flow. You could have flow right now. You
Yeah.
could create flow with the Starbucks guy. You could create flow at the dog park. I mean,
Mhm.
flow is available to you right now. And the sense of vision is more of like that kind of world where it's a sense of something. It's not a goal being accomplished. It's not necessarily an internal feeling. It's more like a presence in the world, which includes you, but it's not about you.
Yeah.
So it's not about you feeling flow. It's that there's flow available. in the space, which is timeless. So I love that you said timelessness, because, vision is not bound to time. It's a spatial conversation, which isn't about past, present, future. So it's a space from which you're coming from. So you're coming from flow, you're standing in flow, and you're taking actions to fulfill on flow.
The vision is clear, is more clear. It's like this flow. And then what happens next?
Well, then you have projects or goals inside of your vision, right? So you have this community goal. So those are vehicles. So you've got vision, you got vehicles that are not the only vehicle to get flow. Because again, you could have flow at the gym, you could have flow, anywhere. But let's say you have this community project, this idea for 10 people that get together twice a week and all that stuff. So then you would start planning that. So you'd say, okay, by the end of next year, you want to be having these get-togethers at least twice a week with at least 10 people. So now, how many people and how many get-togethers would you have to be having in October of next year? And then you go backwards 3 months from there, and then backwards. And when you get to 3 months from now, like the first quarter, this is a perfect time to be doing this, right? You start creating an action plan. You don't do actions necessarily for the 9 months out, but every week you're updating your action plan. So the first action might be, what would be a first action if you were committed to accomplishing this by the end of 2025, let's say?
Well, I had a dinner party with some of those people the other night, and it felt exactly what I was looking for. And it was that, that dopamine rush that was like, more of this, please.
Well, then that's something that already happened. But what would be an action you could take this week that would begin to come from flow, stand in flow, and fulfill on flow in that area called community?
Yeah, I could go to one of those holiday parties I dread so much.
I'm with you. You're speaking my language. I'm like, no, don't make me. It's so funny because I love people, but I'm a real introvert.
Oh, me too. I went to a holiday party. Yeah, I went to a holiday party last weekend, and I went with my sister, who is so skillful, has grown up knowing how to do the small talk, the conversations. And we walked into a room, and she was like, pick a person, we're going to go talk to them. And I said, can I just look at the art on the wall?
I feel like we're the same person. It's so funny because people are always like, really? You? And I'm like, absolutely. But I also talk to people all day long, and I'm sure you do too. Yeah. So, but if you look, that could be an action you could take, right? And then you'd schedule it in your calendar. Yep. But another action you could take is invite those people you had to dinner to another dinner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easy.
Or, create a monthly date where you're going to have these dinners and people can invite a friend. And so now you're growing your community. So you start taking actions that are going to, and you'll probably end up fulfilling on this goal way before the end of the year, because this could take you 2 months to accomplish if you really got committed to it.
I am the person that once it's clear, I bum rush it in the sense of I think that's a football term. Where I
don't know. I'm not, but I get it.
I just go straight into it. And I'm like, okay, we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this. But yeah.
But you have to have it be actionable and in your calendar. Because if it's not in your calendar, the chances of it happening are very, very low. People don't relate to goals and actions as their word. And when you put it in your calendar, you're designing your life in your calendar. Everything in your calendar is your life. So if you can create it as a promise, like, okay, I'm going to schedule and invite 10 people to the dinner for next month on Friday at noon, then all of a sudden there's a place for it to happen in reality, rather than it being like, well, someday we'll do lunch someday. You have so many of those let's do lunches that are just incomplete little threads in the space, and you can't create on top of incompletions. No. Whether it's in a relationship or in a project or even a canvas. I mean, you need a clean canvas. So you have to be coming from nothing and designing.
I love that. I'm gonna action, but I will tell you, I'm an overscheduler. And so this is the tension point that I know a lot of us have, because the way that my anxiety shows up is to schedule. My schedule is booked out till 2027. Mm-hmm. I mean, for good reason. This is part of my job. Is I have to know my schedule.
Have conferences and things.
But one of the things I have been doing lately is unscheduling, like leaving blank spots and not knowing like, oh, I'm going to be here in this month doing this project. And it's actually this interesting thing about it's very scary and important and relieving. And I think that I just want to name it because sometimes about what I'm getting is like designing your life takes concrete, actionable and steps that also we're accountable for because it's there.
Yeah, but you can also schedule downtime. You can schedule.
Wait,
not
sorry, say that again.
Exactly. I mean, I tell all my clients to do this every day, and I do it.
Yeah.
Every day I schedule recharge time. Now, they didn't like that because then they're very high achievers. So they were like doing things to recharge. I was like, how about unproductive time? So they schedule unproductive time where they aren't accountable for producing anything, for doing anything, and they can do whatever they do or nothing, and I tell them to block out certain, like if you want to not be working on the weekends in a year, you got to block that schedule out so that you're not tempted to fill it because empty space gets filled. So if you don't have something on your calendar and you're an overschedule, quote unquote, you're going to put something there. So you need to put something to hold the space. I have a couple of clients that have kids and they're always like, well, my schedule is so like jammed that my kids interrupt me and it throws my whole schedule off. I said, well, then you need to schedule intentional interruption time during the day. Because then if it isn't used, you have a free block of time. Or if it's used earlier, you can swap things. But physically, from a physics perspective, if it's not in your calendar, you can't move it.
Whenever anyone says physics, I have now tuned in and whatever you say, I will do. Physics is my love language, so I'm here for it.
Me too. It's like porn for me. People start talking about brain science and physics, and I'm like, what else you got? We can talk physics at the party where we don't talk to anybody else. I love it.
That is what ends up happening, and then people are like, I have to go refresh my drink. And I'm like, was it something I said?
Exactly, right?
I want to take a moment to give a loud shout out to the Embody Lab, which is one of the most incredible resources for body-based and somatic therapies. This show is all about healing, and the Embody Lab does exactly that. Whether you're on your own journey of transformation and discovery, or enhancing your skill sets in your career as like a coach or a therapist, a body worker, or really any career where you are supporting other gently used humans, the Embody Lab is your place for deep, inspiring, and impactful workshops, certificates, masterclasses, and an incredible community of like-minded folks. I love the Embody Lab, and so do so many other people that call it a platform to come home to over and over again. The Embody Lab is giving my listeners an exclusive offer, a one-time 10% off code to enhance your embodied well-being. All you have to do is go to theembodylab.com and use the code GentlyUse10 at checkout. So one of the things I really appreciated about your work is that you said mindset is not enough. And I want to break that down because for so many people, they're like, it's just a mindset, like get into it. If you can believe it, it will happen. And I'm like, I don't think
lots of people believe in Santa Claus and it's still not real. So,
wait, what?
Oh, sorry. Did I blow that for you? I apologize. Tooth Fairy, how about that?
Trigger warning for our audience. Santa Claus may not be real.
Exactly. Or anything. I mean, look at people start wars over beliefs. I mean, beliefs are very strongly identified with as human beings, but you are not your beliefs. And there's plenty of times you've changed your beliefs over the years. So, the thing about mindset, and listen, I'm a master coach in mindset. I led transformative seminars for 30 years, and that's mostly mindset, right?
Yeah.
It's just not enough because you can have a mindset shift, but if you don't take actions, you're not going to produce results. So people get addicted to insights and they're like, ooh, oh, I just saw
Mm,
this, I just saw that. Okay, but what did you do out of seeing
mm,
that? And if you don't turn your insight into an action that
yeah.
creates new results in your life, then you're basically just jerking yourself around, you know?
Mm, mm. Have you ever done, and you can just nod if you don't want to talk about it, but have you ever done a
No, sure.
psychedelic
No,
like a
I haven't.
therapy?
No,
I
no.
just recently started it for myself. And what I found was it was so elucidating of insight and it was seductive. It's like so seductive. And there was a time that I was like, oh, I just need to go get more insight and more insight. And I love what you're saying here because it's so applicable because I was like, wait, pause. I'm getting a dependent on the insight. And
Yeah,
while it's really helpful, until I take action, that insight really isn't embodied.
yeah, exactly. It's conceptual, and most people live a conceptual life.
Hmm.
But as Alan Watts would say, the menu is not the meal.
Mm.
And people are settling for the menu or the concept of things rather than the thing itself. And my life is about having people have the real deal, not the concept of something.
Alan Watts. Let's just have a moment for it.
I
That is my erotic literature right there.
Me too. I love him. Oh my God. I'm just like, he doesn't have a lot of followers on Instagram and stuff. Like, I'm like always like, how come there's nobody following him? He's a genius.
Well, who's
But
running his account? He's dead.
I don't know. Clearly, we should take it over. That should be one of our projects this year.
Have you heard like the electronic? There's a bunch of like electronic music that's mixed with Alan Watts quotes.
No. Oh my God. You
Oh,
have to send me the link. I would be addicted to that in a minute.
it's pretty funny because it's like if I grew up reading Alan Watts, and then there was like this turning point when people started really using his quotes, and not just on social media and his voice
Right.
and stuff, but then they started mixing it with like hardcore techno, and I was like,
I must hear this. This is now,
I
I'm very excited about this.
yeah, I was like this is my jam, I think. We can get dependent on insights and it's not going to give us the changes and transformation we're looking for. So how
Nope.
do we bridge it? How do we bridge insight into action in a way that will
Well, that's where word comes in. So
word?
when your word has muscle,
Mm-hmm.
then what you create has muscle.
Mm,
See, people go, oh, talk is cheap. Talk isn't cheap, but people cheapen talk by not honoring their word. They honor their thoughts, their feelings, their circumstances, their moods, and they flow that way versus
mm-hmm.
have their word give them their actions. So if I have a promise to be loving and appreciative with my father in law, he might do something that would normally irritate me or hook me or whatever, send me into that world of reaction. But I have a promise that pulls me out of that world and has me take action consistent with being loving and appreciative. Now I have a different kind of relationship with my father in law or whoever, right? If I have a promise to be honorable in my contracts, I might have an initial thought like, well, I could get away with it, but I'm not going to do that because I have this word in the matter. Now, most people's
Mm,
word is weak. So a lot of what I do when I say being unmessable with, it really is about your word being unmessable with, because when you create a vision like you did, flow, right? Anything that's not that is a violation of your word at this point
mm,
because you just created in word your vision. You don't create your feelings, your thoughts, they just happen to you. I mean, they're automatic. It's your brain mostly, creating whatever it creates. And it doesn't require you. Your word is the only thing that you have 100% dominion over. So when people identify as their feelings or their thoughts, and I'm not saying don't have feelings, I have feelings and I have thoughts, but I just don't get in bed with them like they're who I am. Who I
mm,
am and who I identify with as a creation is my word. So when I give my word, it's like I'm giving myself. And
mm,
when you build that muscle of word, you all of a sudden are able to create things like doubling your business or intimacy in your marriage or vitality at work or whatever it is you're creating. You can create things to the point, not just, experiences, but results. Like you could say
Mm.
chair, and a chair will come out of your mouth if you get words strong enough. Those kind of abracadabra moments, which abracadabra is one of my tattoos, and it literally means in ancient Aramaic or Hebrew, with my word I create.
Mm.
It does. It's, people go, oh, it's like a magic hat thing. No, no, no. It is magic, but it's with my word I create. So you say it and it is.
Mm.
That's power. That's
Mm.
freedom.
When you say it, I'm just like, yes, I'm in. And then my deep empathy comes in. I'm like, ooh, and I know how hard it is, and I know you know how hard it is to keep our word, especially
Totally.
when we are people pleasers, when we have had to self-abandon preservation for all of these patterns that we've had to learn or survive in order to and it's to survive by not keeping our word, essentially, like
Yeah.
not maintaining boundaries. So if we weren't given the support to maintain boundaries, how could we maintain our own by keeping our word?
Yeah, it is. It's an underused muscle. It's an atrophied muscle for most people.
Mm.
Most people are better at keeping their word to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if I tell you I'm going to meet you at the gym, it's more likely I'm going to go than if I didn't tell anybody and I woke up in a different mood and I was like, whatever, I'm not going to, I'll go tomorrow. So
Totally.
people don't keep their word to themselves, and that's the biggest lacking. That's the
Yeah.
biggest missing for people. But some people are even bad at keeping their word to other people, right? And that is a function of which world you're in. So if you're in the world of reaction, it's also a world of reasons and
Mm.
justifications and explanations. And you get in that kind of soup and it's very hard to get out of it. So you need to create a gym to get you to that world of word and vision and creation, which is all the work that I do is so that people have mechanisms
Mm.
and structures to be able to develop that muscle. Just like me going to see my trainer is going to develop my quads or whatever muscles. I don't know what those
Your
things are
quads look
called.
great, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Thanks so much. Yes, exactly. They feel horrible, but whatever. But that's the point. It's like, if I went by my feelings, I'd never do anything. I mean, I never feel like
Mm.
doing anything except listening to Barry Manilow and eating cheese. That's pretty much all I ever feel like doing. So, if your feelings are what you're following, you're screwed.
Mm.
But if you have a word, and you've had this happen, we've all had it happen, where you had maybe a promise to go to the I'm just using the gym because this is like what I'm doing now, right?
I'm
So
here
if you
for
have a
it.
promise to go to the gym and you start taking the actions, the feelings follow,
Yeah.
But if people are waiting for the feeling to take the action, they are definitely messable with.
Mm. Say that again. That's
Sure.
important.
If people are waiting for the feelings to take the action, then they
Mm-hmm.
are, by very definition, messable with, because you have no say over your feelings. Your feelings are a crapshoot. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't, and it really has nothing to do with your commitment and has nothing to do with the results. Your abs don't care if you feel like doing sit-ups. If you do the sit-ups, your abs will respond and you'll have the results of doing sit-ups. You don't need to wait to be motivated to go to the gym. Motivation is for suckers. It's just like hope. It's like, what are you waiting to be motivated for? Who cares? Have a promise to
Mm.
yourself or to someone else and then honor your word, and the motivation's irrelevant. You'll get the results. You want results or feelings?
Oh, well, yeah, you're talking to a therapist. I love
I
my
know it's a
feelings.
perfect, but think about it. Think about it.
But I
When
want
people produce
results.
results, they have feelings that follow.
Yes, it's true. But I will say I have been with people that I wish had feelings.
You had people that don't have feelings. I want to meet these people.
I mean, it's part of my job and part of the people I've, you know, chosen to
Yeah.
date. But yeah, yeah.
Well, that's a different
That's a
conversation.
different coaching conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, in the end, we all want the results, and maybe the feeling that comes
Yeah,
from the result.
totally. But that feeling of, let's say, fulfillment, right?
Mm-hmm.
People chase fulfillment.
Oh yeah.
Your feeling fulfillment is
Mm-hmm.
flighty. When you have a vision and you fulfill that vision, that's real fulfillment.
Yeah.
That's like being, I mean, this sounds, I don't want to be like religious or anything, but that's like being God. You're the creator and you fulfill,
Mm.
say, let there be light and there's light. Let there be intimacy and there's intimacy. Let there be flow and there's flow. You start to experience the kind of freedom and self expression
Mm.
and power and joy that's only available in that world of creation. When you have like moments of glee in the world of reaction, it's dependent on something outside of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
like a
Mm-hmm.
circumstance going a certain way, and then you get happy or you get, oh, that was fulfilling, but it's like for a nanosecond, and then it's like, okay, what's next? Because
Mm.
that's the nature of the brain, as you would know. But in terms of when you, in the world of vision, it's something that's fulfilled and unfulfilled all at any given moment, because flow is not like, okay, that's done. It's like an opportunity to be fulfilled at any given moment. And
Mm.
when you fail to fulfill on it, you can catch yourself and reroute. And then still there's that possibility of flow. That's the nature of vision and possibility, is it's both fulfilled and it's unfulfillable and fulfillable at any given moment.
Have you ever worked with someone in that sort of bind where they experienced or thought or perceived or actually have sort of completed their vision?
Yeah, then it's just time to create a new vision.
Is
That's all. You're never stuck with your vision.
What's in the space between?
Nothing. And nothing
Oh, that
and
sounds.
nothing doesn't last. That's the thing about nothing. So this is what
Mm,
people are like, "Oh, I want to get to nothing. I meditate to get to nothing." Okay, good luck keeping that space,
mm-hmm,
because it's a moment. It's a moment of, and for most people, it's relief from that
mm,
other world, right? But when you're truly at nothing, it's like a blank canvas. So now it's, what am I creating? What am I creating right now? And what am I creating right now? And maybe you're creating it for a day, maybe you're creating it for a year, maybe you're creating it for five, the rest of your life, who knows? But you're not stuck with it, because if at any moment you can get to nothing, you have the opportunity to create newly.
mm,
Anything you create, like let's say you create flow and then you turn it into a thing, like I'm about flow and my life's about flow, it's dead already, because you
yeah.
made it into a thing. It's just like a relationship. Anybody that you're in relationship with that you just killed, because now there's no discovery, there's no possibility, there's just the person, the description. You can use language to describe, but it's a low level. You can use language to create, which is a much higher level. And then you can use language to evoke, which is
Mm,
that whole world of vision, which evokes an experience
mm,
with people, with communities, and yourself. But
yeah.
it's not about you. Vision is always out here, not this way. You can't see yourself, your
Mm,
eyeballs with your eyes. It's focused outward.
mm. That, that's so tangible too. Around, I want to go back to what you said, even about relationships, where it's
Yeah.
like the moment curiosity isn't present, so that hunger for discovery isn't there, I think the
Yep.
relationship is dead.
It is. And most people live in a relationship that died long ago, because after about 3 months, people stop discovering.
Mm,
Their brain predicts, the brain, mostly you see maybe 20%, but the rest is filled in by your brain. It's the same thing
yeah,
with your partner.
yeah.
you know it's not like you wake up going, who is this person? You're like, oh, him, oh, her, whatever. It's just, or oh, her, yay, or oh, him, yay, which is still a picture. So you're
Mm.
now related to the menu, not the meal.
I think this is. I wonder if you and I have this in common. Is I can't give up curiosity, and it annoys the shit out of people over a ton. Like I'm in, 9 months in, a year into a relationship, and I was like, "What's the way that you want to be loved today? What would give you that sense of, mm? And people are like, "What? Why is this constantly about discovery and process?" And I'm like, I think that's what it is to be human. I don't know. I'm an alien, but
I mean, but why not? I would just
but why
answer, why
not?
not? It's
Yeah, why
like,
not?
what else you want to talk about? It's like,
How do you keep the curiosity alive?
well, it depends on with who. With
Mm,
clients, when I get on a coaching call with people, I'm informed by the past, but I'm not
yeah.
limited to the past. So, I always start with, okay, what are we creating today? So that
Mm.
they're not stuck with, okay, well, here's what we did last week. So what's happening with that? It's not like a check-in on accountability. You certainly don't need to pay me to do that. You can find somebody for way less expensive to just check in on your goals, right?
Yeah.
So keeping people in that space of vision and creation is sort of the way I stay in that space of vision and creation. So and I do it on a daily basis, but mostly people don't do it on a daily basis. I look at everything I'm creating and I kind of check in and go, okay, am I creating that right now? Or is that now like some dead goal where, like recently, I did my book proposal and my agent's been shopping my book, and mostly my platform isn't very big. Maybe I have 30,000 followers across whatever, and apparently they need like 200,000, whatever it is. And I was like, well, why am I doing this book? Like I had to ask myself, like, hold on, let me just think about this. If what I want is to impact people, is this the way? And, really reevaluating the plan, because it's like, you do a book, that's what you do, da 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 da, And so I was just kind of doing it. Now I love what we're creating with it, but at the same time, it's like, okay, is this pathway the pathway that I'm going to keep acting on? So I have a call with my agent on Saturday to just relook and say, okay, so what are we out to accomplish? What is the vision with this book? What do I want people to have access to out of having this book available to them? And we're going to relook and recreate. I'm never stuck with anything that I created ever. I mean, I was asked to put together a coaches training program, right? Which I was going to do next year. And it was big money, and I was like, oh, this is great. This would be like a huge paycheck. And then, and then I started designing it and how many hours it was going to take. And I thought, this is completely inconsistent with what I'm creating, which is like working less and doing like 12 hours a week. All of a sudden, it was like doubling my schedule. And I heard myself say to myself, just suffer through the year, bank the money, and then you don't have to do it again. And it caught my ear and I was like, what are you talking about? And I canceled the whole thing. It
Wow.
was just not consistent with what I'm creating. And it's attractive because somebody says, here's this money and you can do this. And you go, oh, that's great, as a reaction. But as a creation, what didn't fit.
Is that a familiar voice for you, the one that says just suffer through?
It's not familiar because I don't do that in my life. And that's why it caught my ear.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what? Who is talking right now? Because that is not me. That is it.
I ask that because I think that's such a familiar track in so many of our minds that just goes, it's like, just push through, just push through, just push through.
With my trainer now. And
I was going to say, and now you're a trainer. So where's the line? Where do we go? This is another tension point, a bind, and I love binds, is like, here is a moment where we go, listen to yourself and don't push through. And here's another moment of getting your quads hot and bothered, and you got to push through to get them that way.
And you need to check it with your truing mechanism, which would be your vision. So whenever vision is missing, you end up suffering. When vision is present, you're growing. You're developing, you're expanding, right? But when vision is missing, you're just getting through something.
Okay. That's such a good checkpoint. It's such a good checkpoint of like going, I know for myself of like, recently that voice of just push through is so prevalent in my mind. Like, just push through another grad school program, just push through this relationship that is causing you so much harm. Just push through, like it will be fine on the other side. It will be fine on the other side. And recently I did something for the first time, which is I heard that voice and I said no to something really large. And I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, the world's okay. I'm okay. They're okay. Wow. Because I was, like you said, I was checking in with the vision, and the vision is strong enough to give you the support you need to say no, which for so many of us feels like such an assault.
Well, I don't have a problem saying no if I'm standing in the world of my vision. You know,
Yeah.
it's like if something is not going to forward what I'm up to in life or what I'm up to for other people, like for my family or, you know, my parents, whatever, then it's a pretty easy no for me.
Yeah.
You know, I think if you have issues saying no, then that's a different that's more of a boundary conversation. And my girlfriend Terry Cole, who's a therapist, who's the boundary boss, she's like the master of all that stuff. I don't
Love
really
Terry.
deal with that kind of stuff. I deal with people's words. So if you're going to say yes,
Mm.
then what do you need to honor your word? Not who you gave your word to, not what you gave your word to. It's
Mm.
more about being in a gym for your word. Like if you say you're going to take out the garbage at 7, do it at 7. Don't do it at 7:15. You know, not for no reason, just because you said so. You know, you don't need a reason. You don't need a justification if it's pure your word that you're building. So I have this on my page that I was talking about before, Gift from Joss. One of the free things that people can use to practice their word is called the promise game. And it's a
Mm.
5-day game where you just promise something each day to produce a certain result. So if you want to produce happiness, I promise to make 5 people smile today or something like that. So it's gets you in the world of using your word to create versus describe. Most people just use their word to describe their thoughts, their feelings, their opinions. That's such a low level of language. You know, language has way more power than just description.
I love your attention to linguistics.
It's my jam.
It's your jam, abracadabra.
That's right.
So, what are some people are at home? They're going, okay, I'm listening. I'm inspired. I have some idea about creating that vision. I have some idea of working backwards, taking those actionable steps. What do I do immediately after I listen to this podcast? What's my first thing I should do?
I mean, I would say download something free from my thing so that you can start to practice really, because
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
going
yeah.
to give you the practice. I mean, otherwise, I mean, what I would do is I would get a coach in any area I want to produce something I haven't yet produced.
Okay.
That's what I would do because I love coaching.
Yeah,
But if you don't want to have a coach and you want to do it yourself, kind of thing, then you get support through that kind of like videos and materials of
yeah.
people that are doing what you're talking about. I mean, I have all sorts of free things that people can do. And every quarter I do a vision workshop so people can, you know, engage with me live.
Yeah.
But the first thing I would do is start making promises.
Mm.
You know, make a promise a day. Keeps the ordinary away, you know, and a promise that you're going to keep all day long. So it's not just a one like I promised to work out today. No, it's more like I promised to call 5 people in my life and tell them the difference they've made for me.
Mm.
Or I have a book called The Promise Effect that I wrote, which
Yeah.
I think is a free download. I have a peace promise book that's a free download, which is to create more peace in your life, and that gives you 30 days of promises. So if you just want
Mm.
to, you know, get started in the world of promising, it's a pretty simple way of developing that muscle.
Yeah. And because we're all a little gently used and we come up against our lives and our things, how do we resolve the fact that sometimes we might miss a promise and we might spiral into shame, we might spiral into like fuck this, I'm not going to
Yeah.
do any of it. Like that's that sort of default mechanism a lot of us have.
Well, a couple things about that. One is when you break your word and you react to yourself breaking your word, so you go into the world of reaction, like, oh, I'm such a loser, then you're screwed. So you have to stay in the world of vision. So if I
Mm.
say I'm going to do, first of all, you can always honor your word. Keeping your word and honoring your word are two different things. There are times where I
Mm.
don't keep my word, but I always have the opportunity to honor my word by dealing with the impact of my broken word. So if I say to somebody, I'll be at your house for dinner at 8 o'clock, and then, you know, at 6 o'clock, it looks like that's not going to happen for whatever reason or circumstance, and I get in communication with that person immediately and let them know, listen, I know I said 8, it looks more like 9. There's less impact than if I wait till 7:45 and say, I'm running late, I'll be there more like 9. Now the roast is burnt and da da da. So the moment you see you're not going to be keeping your word, get in communication with whoever that impacts and deal with the impact as a person of your word, as a someone who honors their word. Like I had promised to do a seminar for somebody, And then my mother had to have surgery, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be with my mother. So I called the person right away, and it was only a week till the seminar, and they promoted it, and it was like a whole thing. And I said, how can I, deal with the impact of it? And they go, well, can you replace yourself with somebody better than you? I said, absolutely. So I found somebody who was willing to do it, and it cost me a little money, but it was worth it because I was left intact in honor.
I really appreciate that discernment between the two, because it's not, we are human, and it's not always easy. It's not possible to always fulfill our promise, but we can truly maintain our honor in relation to it in a way that doesn't shame, blame,
shame and blame is
ourselves.
all reaction. Exactly. That's all just like you not being responsible for, I said X, I did Y. Okay, so now get complete about that, which is the whole thing about completion. When you don't complete things, you have a bunch of loose ends and you can't really create. But if you can complete the broken word, like I said I would work out 4 times this week, I did it 3 times. Okay, so what's the source of that? I didn't put it in my calendar. That's the action or the inaction that allowed for that breakdown in results. Okay, good. So now I know what to correct next week. And then that's complete. I don't have to have a whole story about it. I can just look at, okay, what's the source? What's the correction? What's the adjustment? Moving on.
The way you put it makes it feel so accessible. And I appreciate that, because shame, blame, criticism is one of our best strategies of avoiding accountability.
Yep, completely. And it keeps you suffering. It's so silly. It's like, you're in a prison of your own creation.
Yes. And so I'm visioning for everyone that sense of freedom from that. Josselyne, this has been such a pleasure. I could talk to you all day.
What a joy.
And I know that so many...
It was flow.
It was flow. And I know so many of us who are listening are going, I can do this. I can make the changes. I can find more rest. I can. And I want to just keep encouraging you. If you're feeling even a spark of I can, do it. You can do this. Go download so many of the free offerings that Josselyne has, and just support yourself in this process of transformation, growth, even growth to rest.
Yes, definitely. Recharge time.
Recharge. Josselyne, where can people find more of you, connect with you?
Well, I have a podcast called Be Unmessablewith, so they can listen to my podcast. I have a short solo episode every week, plus a guest episode every week. And then my website is the best place to go, which is beunmessablewith.com. But if you go to Gift from Joss, I would say that's the best place to go. Giftfromjoss.com. You can go to the rest of the website from there and get something free right away to taste working with me, because I think and plus it's just so valuable. Like, I want people to have this. Not everybody can afford to work with me. It's fine. I want them to have it. So I've designed a bunch of stuff from free to little bit of money to more money. But, it's like whatever works for you, whatever level of support you want.
I appreciate that, because we all deserve support. We all just deserve it, as our gently used human souls need. Josselyne,
we're not so gently used.
Yeah, so we're more resilient in our gently usedness, or that gently usedness results in resilience.
Gently used plus. Okay?
Gently used plus. Check. Josselyne, thank you so much. And to all of our gently used humans out there, we love you. Thank you for listening to the Gently Used Human podcast with Dr. Scott Lyons and friends. Visit gentlyused.com for fun extras, and don't forget to spill the tea and gossip about the show with all your friends and frenemies. And show some love by giving us 5 stars and leaving a review in your favorite apps. This helps us connect with all the other gently used humans out there. Oh, and by the way, you look fierce today.